Chapter 10. Closed Doors. A cage. It holds those which require restraint. It prevents one from wandering too far from the firm bars, and allows the captor complete freedom over their being. The leverage goes to them, and escape from these prisons is nigh impossible. Avoiding such binds in the first place is the goal, but sometimes fate binds in inevitability. Cages come in many forms. They seek to hold us back from what we truly can be. Yet, we build them ourselves often. Why self-defeat when we can be free to fly? A question I will have to answer in time. The pass before us was indeed chilling, with cliffs towering over us on either side, coupled with the occasional ceiling of sand and stone. The breeze that funneled its way out of here formed a much cooler portion to Ansar's home. Truly, the chill-bound pass earned its namesake. Traveling the pass wasn't exactly comfortable, but it was a lot better than the burning sun and the dry sand that wore on my weary paws. My guide didn't seem as keen on the area, however. Every time the breeze blew in, he seemed irritated, and parts of his fur permeated with tense standing. Occasionally, the breeze would strengthen and flap our ears and my antenna, while subtly slowing our progress. There were no words exchanged, just two beings traversing a maze of epic proportions. The sand assaulted my face more often than decay has in mere hours. It was really beginning to strike a chord with me as more sand landed a bullseye in my eyes. Using one of my ears as a mask helped alleviate such annoyances, even if it wasn't perfect. I considered our silence a blessing. After all, there's no risk of a dusty meal entering my throat from inhaled glints. I could recount the exact process of our trip, but nothing occurred. Sure, I could tell you about how grain number 67,595 slid through my fur. However, that'd grow staler than the dunes that rested within this cursed land. I could also regale how Ansar casually ventured ahead of me without so much as flinching, but that swiftly grew boring as well. I ran out of things to say, or think about on this journey to that illustrious village everyone spoke of. And by illustrious, I mean infamous. Every story to cross my ears was all about how they think highly of themselves, and anyone else was beneath them, and how they raided the home of many Dunestriders in this brown-infested graveyard. However, with all of this coupled together, I grew more anxious by the hour as we neared it. Halfway through the pass, my patience shrunk. Despite my timid and cautious demeanor, the need to speak festered when Zero's speech was exchanged. I needed to break things up, even for a second.
Hey, Ansar.
My lips quivered as they readjusted to flapping my words with hesitation.
What?
Their voice, dull as can be, spoke more volumes than the word they uttered.
How do you walk with all this sand in the air?
I just do.
I could sense he wasn't happy. I tried rephrasing a little.
No, I mean, why doesn't it bother you?
He left the path in silence once again, and I resigned my curiosity for a while more. The moki eventually, with reluctance, answered. I had never expected him to say anything at all.
My eyes. They have thin protective covers over them.
Oh, that's nice. I wish I had that.
A moment of silence resurfaced, but words traveled once again, leaving subtle, angry undertones.
No, you don't.
I re-entered the quiet with a tinge of regret for asking such things. Anxiety rages for action, but inaction drives equal levels of worry within. Beyond this interaction, we kept our words to ourselves, and hoped the end drew near. Above the cliffs, I began to notice remnants of plants, dried roots and leaves, some of which had fallen below us and rested there for years. Their dead cold remnants left an unsettling taste in my mouth. Death felt so unbearable to see my first time. It never got easier, and each dusty leaf I'd trampled was a life fading in the wind. More death would soon follow if I couldn't do what I'd promised. Most of the path before this point was sand and hexagonal stone. Various routes laid before you, and down them more would branch, but only one led to our destination. Fortunately, one of us knew the exact path required. After nearly another day of traveling through sand and added chilly winds, we'd finally arrived close to our destination. The pass fell into colder pastures. The sun had completely vanished from our sight. The source of our warmth now hid beyond the rocks of the pass, and left me hugging myself for any heat that remained. Breathing could be heard, air flowing with quiet shivering inhales, but not from me. No matter how hard his front was, Ansar was not invincible to such weather.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Oblivious as I could be, even I could tell this wasn't normal for him. I felt bad and wanted to warm him somehow.
We could stop here for a while and...
We're almost there. I'll be fine.
I did not wish to argue. The wind lessened as we drew closer anyway, so I didn't have to. The chill-bound pass, in all its merciless wind, colder temperatures, and lengthy distance, had finally come to an end. After one more turn, I could see a clearing, leading towards our destination. The first milestone on our journey was in sight, and now I was nervous. There was hope for me to accomplish the first of many challenges ahead, yet now that I could see one before me, it was quite foreboding.
All right, before we go in, let me do the talking. You already know what they're like, and they like spirits even less. This will be much easier without you trying to make conversation.
Having a third reminder of their supposed pompousness gave a strong indicator of how different they were from who I grew up with.
What? Why don't they like spirits?
Don't ask me. I'm just the messenger.
The messenger?
Don't worry about it.
Their swift interjections became a frustrating pattern. Within a few minutes, the distance between us and the hidden village vanished. Two tall, bulky individuals stood at the sides of the entrance to this grand vista before us. Their bodies were dark, four-armed, and one of them bore a small, round, white fluffy mane in dull white with shades of purple. They wore muscles on their sleeves, literally. Their entire physique could pass for a decorated boulder. Don't even get me started on the horns. Although not perfectly trimmed, those sharp appendages asserted much of the dominating presence on their own. I hadn't noticed I was staring, but I could hardly be blamed for that. All of this gave me plenty of reason to stick closer to the Strider. The brutes glared at the two of us, to which we both ignored and kept walking. The reward for our long and arduous journey was at last the potential for shelter. Unfortunately, said shelter woefully disappointed. Before us laid a massive array of orange buildings and cloth overhangs spread far along the expanse. Although a fair distance from the enclosed walls, each rectangular structure bore an uncanny resemblance to the stone walls of the pass. Despite the age, these formidable creations stood here for many years with no signs of falling apart. However, nearly every block was empty. My excitement reached a distressing halt. The residents of this vast place came and left each store with their heads hung low. Each of the tragically thin creatures looked like a moki. Their appearance couldn't be any more different from Ansar's, though. The fur darkened like a swamp breed, only gray instead of various teals. Thin tails dragged along the floor, with lighter fur splayed out like leaves on a vine. The rest of their features were too hard to make out from this distance. A few walked out with relief while carrying gracious few blessed droplets. They were the only source of true color here, and a light in the dreadful expanse. The aura lethargically spread its distressful energy and crept between the both of us. Yet Ansar didn't act surprised. He's been here before, after all. We took pause for a moment, or rather, Ansar had, and I followed his lead. The Strider pointed towards the crowd of slow-treading moki while staring back at me. Their expressions did not scream, didn't even speak, only whimpered and frowned. Their bodies strained under the weight of forced steps, as well as thin, weary exteriors. Their eyes glowed dim. Not a tinge of light radiated from them. Some could barely lift their tails. Others dragged theirs along the dull grains. These moki were a pitiful lot.
All these people? Many won't make it. Food is so scarce, and from what I understand, the way it's earned here isn't great. Did you see those holes on the way in? The ones in the walls?
No.
All around us are holes dug into the walls. Those are where all of them live. However, most of them lived on the higher floors, and due to that weakness, will never make it home again. Almost every one of them huddle up in the grounded dwellings, trying to stay warm. With what good that'll do? This valley gets really cold at night, even more so than in the open desert. Without food, that'll only get worse. The ones in charge of this place, the council, they've been incredibly desperate to get food. That's why they raided our homes, killing nearly everyone. They only kept me alive for reasons I never agreed to.
Suddenly, from behind, a A spear's pole grappled his neck without mercy. A moki, bearing the same appearance as the others we'd seen, had taken hold of Ansar's neck. They refused to let go.
Ansar! What are you guys doing?
The moki wasn't up for conversation. They merely grunted, trying to hold the strider back from me.
What's going on? Why are ya?
Ansar struggled against the high ground the enemy held, but the aggressor merely responded with a tighter grip and choked his exit plan. In that moment, I knew I should have jumped over to save him. I should have grabbed a hold of that spear and tried to free my guide, but I was trembling, far too scared to make a move. The inaction would yet again be my downfall. From behind, I was swiftly grabbed and held firm by the neck in a similar fashion.
Ouch! Let me go!
My fight paled in comparison to Ansar's. That spear pole budged as feebly as my timid cries. What could I do? How could I leave this awful situation? I couldn't dare hide my panicked breaths. I was afraid, and it was on display for them to hear and see. A break in the silence came through and chilled my bones to a frozen state.
Well, isn't this interesting? I believe I said that these lands are mostly freed from the rot that cut us off. It was I, wasn't it?
A moki with eyes tinted in foreboding, green, desaturated shades and matted fur stood beside me, staring with their round and threat-filled eyes, which remained somewhat closed. Their appearance otherwise mimicked the other moki we saw. I could sense immense exhaustion just by looking at those lifeless optics. I was too fixated on the dreadful moki to peek at my surroundings, but soon after he said this, he looked at what I assumed were our captors.
Right, yes, I said. Mostly. To be completely freed of rot, you have to make sure you burn it all up.
I couldn't understand what possessed him to laugh about any of this, but he sounded unstable. His words barely even floated above the howling waves he manifested with his tone.
Now, imagine my surprise when I come to find out.
He walked away from me, which should have given me a sigh of relief, but he walked over to Ansar, and my anxiety remained.
A spirit walks amongst us. Now correct me if I'm wrong.
They took pause for what seemed like ages. Slowly their arm rose, and their fingers snapped, commanding one of the spear wielders to jolt the stick against Ansar's head. His pain echoed through the valley.
Stop! You're hurting him!
I pleaded with all the worry a child could, yet he kept monologuing as if he heard nothing.
I ordered all of them dead! I warned you and that putrid friend of yours, if you failed to kill any that come your way, your sentence would be lethal. I meant what I said.
Another guard from behind me walked over with their razor-sharp spear, carved in the same stone as everything else seemed to be.
I do hope you two were well acquainted. I hear the inn doesn't allow for any I wish, or was it my fault? I'll simply answer those for you. It was your fault, all of it.
They turned and twisted their face towards me. Their arms rested behind their back, crossed and confident with authority none could see, but could feel with every fiber of their being. The matted one's voice exited their mouth, but two voices entered my ears, and a suppressed memory resurfaced with no remorse.
You're nothing but a curse.
Tears fell from my eyes. I hadn't even noticed the buildup of emotional expression within them, but they'd grown over time and overflowed upon hearing the exact words that invaded my senses many days before.
Oh wow, look what we have here. The tears of a coward. Did I step on a few toes? Strike a chord with the precious light?
He gently scraped one of the tears with a finger and flicked it away.
That's right, a curse. All of these creatures around you are as thin as sticks with bones, weak and frail. Do you know why? Because your ancestors failed in doing their jobs! We trusted them to protect us all, and look what we're left with. Nothing. Nothing but a wasteland of dust and stone. The whole reason decay persists so egregiously is to wipe any light from existence, and fortunately, light's come to our doorstep so it can pursue us.
Their monologue forced a room full of silence. All the moments of quiet we've had on our journey thus far were of our own making. Neither of us wished to speak, but here this commander demanded our cooperation. I couldn't bring myself to cry more tears. Although scared out of my mind, my emotions were locked and frozen, so nothing new could unveil itself from my eyes. My routine tremors and drooped ears remained.
Murderers get what they deserve, and you both qualify for the company you've attracted. Kill them now.
Another guard with a similar weapon stood in front of me, and the other finished approaching Ansar. There was nothing either of us could do. I pushed against the firm and steady spear as much as possible, to no avail. The spears rose above us, and I grew mesmerized with the weapon before my eyes. In these last moments, a flood of doubt drowned me, and the bloody scenes I'd seen, the melted faces of my loved ones, it came roaring back. Was I truly cursed? My body exhaled the distress, and the overwhelming sensation of fear threw a red glow that overruled my blue. My father's words came through with distorted reverb and reminded me of the promise I'd made.
Promise me, little Luke. Can you promise? You'll do your best for me. Promise to be my light.
The waters arose quickly as they appeared. I held for air, ready for the worst, but it never came. I could breathe as effortlessly as normal. Unfortunately, the terrain became stained with chunky decay, coating the ground in blobs of toxic waste. All of the coordinated guards were no more, instead occupied by rotten animals ready to devour a shiny meal. The blade, once refined and cleaned, now rested rigid and rusty. Snarls crunched the sea of darkened contortion. However, they never acted with the intent presented. Their presence only filled my lungs with rapid panic. Breathing under these waves was a miracle in itself. I couldn't explain how I retained consciousness. Seeing all of this grim and dreadful imagery around me stuck paralysis through every inch of me. Flesh from all sources were in tatters, eyes blood red, and tails deformed. Despite all of this, no blood resided within the fleshy forms, only muscle and bone. Growls of teeth, sharp as the knives that threatened to cut us down, pursued my still body. It's almost as if the eyes stabbed me with static to bind me there. No rope was needed, just a cold, dead stare. No light remained. The world was nothing but a dreary, heavy wasteland. Any movement would take immense energy. The land sapped it all within seconds. The air lost any semblance of clear and calm, instead permeated chaotic energy and coated with thick poison. To my knees I fell and strained everything in me to breathe. Despite the discomfort, I needed air, but taking the air slowly drained my life. It seemed the same applied to the beasts that snarled. All of them frantically flailed on their backs, desperate for anything to relieve their aching lungs. Trills rolled rapidly, and inhaled air beat our desperate pleas into the ground. I needed it all to end. I couldn't take any more. Finally, a silence met my ears. I could breathe. The air's attack gave way. The trills faded, and the harrowing beasts with it. I realized as I gently unveiled my eyes, all the horrors before me were all a dream. When did I fall under open eyes? When did the lands turn into a water-filled deception? How did one day turn into uncontrolled madness? It was then I realized how long it had been since my last encounter with the disease that plagued me. Unfortunately, freedom did not greet me yet. Nevertheless, I awoke all the same, confused, unaware, and worried. My eyes, with half the enthusiasm, raised their weary lids and observed the completely new surroundings. Dreadful, cold darkness coated the room, with small traces of orange peeking through a square window. Solid rock walls, smooth as the stone foundations of the clearing, choked the freedom I'd glimpsed for days. Any attempt to taste it once again would be an exercise in harming your hands. A wooden door, defying the norm of nearly everything, stood bold at the entrance next to said window. I approached the plank door with patient steps, placed my hands on it, and pushed. No amount of force from these pitiful hands would budge the wall before me. It was carved and perfectly built. Not even a sliver of movement showed. Suddenly, a distant whisper entered my ear.
You won't make it out that way.
Someone was in here with me. With huddled, timid arms, I turned away from the door and looked to my blind spot. I couldn't believe it. It was a moki huddled in the corner. This place was full of surprises. I'd never seen anything like it. Not exactly cramped, but it was only the size of a room. Perhaps part of a house?
Who are you? Where are we?
After a long moment of silence, she responded with more whispers.
Now's not the time. Get some rest. Long day ahead.
That response only left me with more questions. Rest for what? How could I sleep after the incredible whiplash I'd gone through? I was nearly killed mere moments ago, and now I find out that my senses completely collapsed into a nightmare and sent me here. What would motivate me to sleep at a time like this?
But I...
You don't want to alert the guards. Go back to sleep.
I never wished to show defiance to anyone. Confrontation towered over me, and I hid within the trees where it could never find me. However, this time would be different. I'd peek from the leaves I hid between and speak against this moki's request.
I'm not tired. I don't know what's happening. Can you please help me?
The silence returned, and nothing left but cold air and shoulders.
Please. I just want to...
Quiet! Get to sleep now! The aggressive voice of a female whisked any comforts that remained. With old habits still in my nature, I embraced my tail and gently wandered to the other corner of the room. Unsteady air flowed through my tremor-filled bones as I slowly lowered myself to the ground. Frosty sensations from the earth beneath me spiked my fur into standing. This place was no ordinary room, and it barely received warmth. Lying there with such dreadful emotions added no end to the fear that rose like the waters before. There were no vile glows, no malformed visions, no reminders of what I fought and lost, and no curses. Only a scared little boy in the dim underground remained. Fortunately, there was one saving grace in this frigid misery. Sometime later, during my continued strain for sleep, the moki made their way over and curled up around me. Tremors ceased, a wave of comfort rolled my fur down from its tense state, and my breathing stilled. There was no further exchange, just two creatures trying to stay warm in the cold. Wonderful as it was meeting an ally in Ansar, he was quite cold and barely willing to give me any inch without a lot of push on his conscience. This was the first time since my father that anyone would so much as comfort me in a hug.